Welcome to another episode of Equity Mates. My name is Bryce, and as always, I'm joined by my equity buddy, Ren. How are you going?
I'm very good, Bryce. I am very excited for this interview, this episode, but we are into the third part of our long-form interview, and we're talking dividend stocks.
Yep.
I can't wait to hear three.
That's right. It is our pleasure to welcome back David Keir from Dundas Global Investors, who leads the Apostle Dundas Global Equity Fund for the Aussies and New Zealand investors over here. David, welcome.
Yes, good morning to you all from Scotland and good afternoon to you all in Australia.
So, fascinating 2 days with you, David, covering all things, sustainable dividends and also your investment approach. But we're excited for today because we get to hear about three stocks on your watch list. So we'll throw you the stock and we'll give the floor to you as to why the stock is on your watch list and what the stock is all about. Let's start with the first one, which is Tomra. The ticker is TMRAY. What is the stock and why is it on your watch list?
Yeah, so Tomra, as you say, is a Norwegian company. We talked a little bit about ESG in the first couple of episodes, and Tomra is at the heart of this. So what does it do? It's really two strands to the business. The first is it makes and supplies reverse vending machines. So these are machines that actually you put your cans and whatever cartons in, and they will be recycled for reuse. And the second thing they do is sensor-based technology. So this is technology that can sort food, recycling, and also used in Australia for mining materials, etc. So and the sensor technology is fascinating. If you go into their website, we talked a lot about going to companies' websites, seeing what they do. There's some great stuff about what they do with sorting food, what they can sort food for now. So it's not just obvious defects. There's a plethora of things that will now sort food for, colours, size, anything. It's fantastic. A really interesting business. So going back to the heart of the start of it, so on Monday we talked about the sifting. So how do we identify names? So this came through a sift of the waste management industry, and for us it highlighted there's a lot going on here again. So we talked about the auto sift, a lot going on within the waste industry. There's an awful lot going on because obviously the whole ESG is at the heart of many investors' debates. And Tomra's a company that we bought back in January 2020. And the business has changed a lot. So the last 20 years, you go back 20 years ago, Tomra was just simply a business that provided these reverse vending machines. But through a lot of M&A, a lot of reinvestment in the business, so the building blocks to this sustainable growth that we touched on yesterday, it's done a lot of that, and it's now a much more broad business, massive market shares in what it does, and frankly, it's all about the circular economy, so minimizing waste, optimizing use of the world's resources, and it's got some great long-term growth drivers ahead of it in terms of government policy, in terms of this recycling, single-use plastics, etc. This depository schemes are getting rolled out across the globe, and then obviously you've got productivity as well. So from companies, the sorting, etc., helps companies become more efficient, and obviously corporates, there's a lot of pressure to become more environmentally friendly, and obviously only reusing recycled plastic, etc. So this is a company that is really interesting. It's sifted very well. And it's got decades of growth ahead of it as we all become much more environmentally friendly in our days and activities and corporates as well.
Yeah, it's a fascinating company, David. I had a little bit to do with Tomra in a past life when I worked in waste management at a major supermarket. And yeah, it's a company that its name keeps coming up. So it's a fascinating one. We've got to ask, given that your focus is on sustainable dividend investing, what's the situation with Tomra's dividend over the past, 3 or 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely, it's absolutely vital. So Tomra's grown its dividends by 18% per annum over the last 10 years. But the key thing is the payout ratio is only 50%. So we think about that. So of the profits generated every year, 50% are paid to investors, but 50% are reinvested for this future growth. Remember these three buckets: M&A, R&D, CapEx, the things that we really focus on. So 50% of profits are retained for reinvestment to ensure that Tomra can lead this fantastic long-term growth opportunity.
a year over the past 10 years. That's the kind of numbers that you love to see. So David, let's move on to the second stock on your watch list, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher the pronunciation here. Assa-Abloy, the ticker is Assa-B, which is a Swedish conglomerate based in Stockholm. First of all, can you correct my pronunciation, and then can you tell us about the company and why you like it?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is Assa-Abloy, so well done. So what do they do? So they are the makers of locks and entrance systems. So just take a big picture thinking about this. So locks and entrance systems, or locks particularly, tend to be sort of lock and key mechanism, but we are undergoing a sort of digital revolution in this charge to electromechanical locks. So if you think about it, and again, going back to basics, where did we identify Assa? It came from our shift into the sort of home improvements market. And I guess the big picture thinking for us is that the global building stock increases by roughly 2 to 3% per annum. And clearly for buildings, efficiency is vital. So they will be using electromechanical doors, etc., etc. So there's a company that we did the SIFT, we bought back in November 2019. It's what's really interesting is the market structure. So it's about 40 billion US dollar market today, but it's still very fragmented. Assa-Abloy are number one, but the top three have less than 30% of the global market share. So it's a market that's ripe for consolidation, and Assa have been doing that. So they've done something like 221 deals since 2016, so that's boosted the top line by about 5% per annum. And we expect further M&A, and actually they just announced over the last month or so the largest deal in the company's history. It was a US business called Spectrum Brands Home and Hardware. Bought it for about $4 billion, and that's adding more product functionality, smart key technology, biometric locks. So some really interesting product there. So they engage in M&A, but don't forget what the other bucket is R&D, one of the big bucket we focus on. And we discussed proof points yesterday, and Assa-Abloy spend about 4.5% of sales on R&D. But two interesting points. The first is that is up 100% over 5 years, the absolute level of spend. But the proof of the pudding is that actually 25% of annual sales now come from products that were launched in the last 3 years. So that's a really interesting point. That is a sign of a company that is spending its R&D budget well, and obviously you're seeing evidence by that coming through. So for us, very simplistically, 90%, amazing, 90% of all locks today are still lock and key. Tomorrow they won't be, clearly. So it's got years of growth ahead of it as we shift to the whole mechanical systems. And if you think about the way the world's going, with there'll be higher ticket prices, there'll be software involvement, there'll be services involvement. So this is a business that can look forward to good top line growth, but also expanding margins. And just to pull it all together, we like talking about dividend growth, as you know. So it's grown its dividend by 11% per annum over the last 10 years. And again, the payout ratio is only 50%. So a nice mix of paying out profits today, but keeping enough back to reinvest and ensure growth tomorrow.
This is why I love Watchlist Wednesday, because everyone gets excited, tries to focus and gets excited about the top end of town, tech companies, the Facebooks, the Amazons, etc. But you always forget to look at companies that are the leaders in locks. So love it. It's fascinating. David, to close out your third stock, and this is the big end of tech town, and it is eBay. The ticker is eBay, trading on the NASDAQ. Why is this one on your watch list?
Yeah, so obviously we all know what eBay is. I'm sure the US listed shopping platform, and we did a corporate software sift very beginning of this year, and eBay was identified from that. And there's a few things going on with eBay. A big picture, clearly, there's so much more getting transacted online. Everyone talks about the COVID pandemic bringing forward activity online by at least a couple of years. So now about 20% of all transactions are done online, and clearly that's only going one way. So the big picture is that they are a massive long-term tailwind. With eBay itself, it's been a lot happening at eBay. If viewers may or may not remember that eBay used to own PayPal. It demerged PayPal in about 2015. It also had other businesses that were frankly proving a distraction. StubHub, the ticket reselling division, classified division, which things like Gumtree, etc., were in there. And it wasn't fully focused on its marketplace platform, and it wasn't reinvesting enough in that platform. So it's demerged PayPal very successfully, and PayPal is a holding that we do own. And it's sold StubHub, it's demerged, classified, it's kept a stake, but it's now really purely focused on this marketplace platform, and it's all about reinvesting to reinvigorate growth. And the building blocks are very favorable in terms of more things happening online. But eBay is a very vibrant platform. It's got 180 million buyers across the globe using the platform, 25 million sellers selling their product on the platform, and it's got 100 billion of, they talk about this gross merchandising volume, and that's simply 100 billion of goods are sold on the platform every year, and that's growing every year. So they have a good starting point. It's all about reinvesting to reignite the growth. As a new chief executive who came from Sam's Club, which is the sort of the discount part of Walmart. And what's really interesting is he's really focusing on becoming the online discount retailer of choice. So this is kind of last year's stock. They talk about N-1 stock, last year's stock, that the sort of the branding companies don't want to put in the shops anymore, so they'll give it to eBay, and eBay are able to, or they'll sell it on eBay rather, and eBay is a great place for that. So they started with trainers or sneakers they talk about in the US, and they're doing all sorts of products. So growth rates have accelerated. Clearly there's a pandemic impact in that as people have been stuck at home, but they're capturing more customers now, and they're growing again, and they're also capturing more of the value chain. So they're now fully focused, but also they've now been able to, the 5-year lockup with PayPal expanded for the payment system. They've created their own payment system, so they're now capturing more of that value chain, and also they're able to monetize much more of the platform, things like sellers promoting listings, so you can charge for that now. So there's a lot going on here, and clearly, the big picture is more and more transactions will be done over time. It's 20% today, but over the long term, that number's only going one way. So eBay only started paying a dividend 2 or 3 years ago, but it's grown by 12% per annum since it started paying a dividend, and the payout ratio is only 20%. So we see that as a very good dividend growth stock over the long term.
Well, David, I would love to sit here and listen to you talk about all 70 odd companies in your portfolio, but we've run out of time. Maybe that's a new segment, Ren. It's talk your
just list them all.
Just list all your holdings and tell us about them. No, but look, David, we have run out of time. But again, very much appreciate you sharing with us today. Our Equity Mates community would have got a lot of value out of that. So thank you very much, and we look forward to closing out our conversation tomorrow to get your views on how you're currently seeing the market, and what you're kind of looking forward to or looking for as we move to the end of the year and into 2022. So, as always, appreciate your time, and we'll chat tomorrow.
Yeah, many thanks.
And that brings us to the end of our episode today. Ren, another fascinating Watchlist Wednesday, and we're closing out with David tomorrow.
Yeah, I can't wait. There was a lot of questions that we had that we didn't really know where to put them. So we've got them tomorrow. So we're going to be hearing about David's views moving into next year, but we're also going to be covering Bitcoin, inflation.
Nice.
There's a lot to touch on. David's been a great guest. We've learned a lot this week, and I can't wait to pick it up tomorrow.